think something that's important as believers to realize is a lot of times we have like a goal. We see someone that's like a role model and we see the destination, but we don't understand the process from A to B, how it took from where they were at to where they are.
One time we were in Nashville and we were leading worship at a conference and Bill was the speaker, and we'd had a really long day with the kids and they were sick and just a long day. And we were getting ready to lead worship and we're in the car driving to the event, and Bill's in the back seat and I'm in the front seat. And I just kind of mumbled under my breath, mommy hat off, worship hat on, you know, just kind of getting myself in the mood or whatever, I guess. And Bill just leaned into the front seat and simply said, the problem is that the worship hat should have never come off. And that one phrase kind of became my whole life, with no matter what I do, if I'm changing diapers or being mom or up on a stage in front of like a lot of people, that hat doesn't come off and that it stays the same.
And I will love you, Lord, my shield.
When I was 7 years old, I was sitting in a small group of kids, and our leader, Sunday school leader, or whatever, was leading us in worship. And you know, I grew up under the pew. I'm a PK, and I understand a lot of the Bible stories and understand the concepts of worship. But until that day, did I not really understand the power of worship and why we worship and all the facets of the depths of what worship and what praise is. And I'm sitting in this group of kids, and all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere, I know what it is now, but a demon, an evil spirit, either sat on my shoulders or came close to me, I don't know how, whatever, and I literally, that spirit of terror came on me, and I lost it. And I ran to the bathroom, because I didn't want to go crazy, you know, like cry and stuff in front of the other kids in the room, and I looked at my eyes in the bathroom like, what is going on? And I'm just panicking and I'm freaking out, and I ran home that day. Didn't talk to anyone, I just ran home. And we lived in a small town in Weaverville. It's 4,000 people, so it wasn't a huge, like a city, but it's still, you know, it's a 15-minute walk running home. And I'm trying, as I'm on my way home, I'm trying to figure out what is going on. And I knew enough to know that, you know, this is not right, this is not God, what is happening? So I get home and I'm telling my parents, and you know, and then I started to go through a process with my dad. So I get home, I'm telling my parents, you know, what's going on, and my dad starts to teach me and train me from that day on, all the way through high school until I was 21. I mean, I slept with my parents almost every night until I was 18 years old. And because of this torment that I was going through, and it was off and on, it wasn't all the time, and I was a Christian. And I can remember as a kid, you know, laying in bed with my parents, and literally, I remember one time where this thing is on, and my dad's teaching me, we're singing and praising in the bed, and I'm feeling this attack, this terror, you know, and I was like on the verge of losing it, and anyways, and we're just singing, you know, I love you, Lord, and we exalt thee, and all the songs that you can sing without an instrument, which, by the way, all you guys that wrote those songs, thank you so much. We sat in bed, and I remember from 12 at night to 6 in the morning straight. And I remember, you know, it came in waves that night. I remember about 6 in the morning as we're worshiping, singing like We Exalt Thee or something, it broke. You know, it wasn't through prayer, it wasn't through reading the Bible, it wasn't through anything. It wasn't even through processing through it. It was purely just singing to the Lord. I remember 6 in the morning after this battle, my dad looks at me and says, "You did it." You know, a lot of, you know, there's some parenting here too, like training your kids to fight, you know, training your kids to do that, to battle, to learn what it is, to learn spiritual principles, to learn what it is to praise, what it is to worship.
I think right now is the most relevant encounter that I've ever had in worship, and so I want to tell you that. Like, even just in the last month, losing one of my best friends, of 12 years, he passed away. And if I have ever offered a sacrifice of praise, it's right now. You know, like you're singing songs about the dead being raised and the blind seeing, and you're singing about a good God, and my best friend still died. He didn't come back and he didn't get raised from the dead. But I get to stand up and I still get to declare and worship. And I remember the first time I led a worship the weekend after I got back, and I thought I was going to pass out because it was like everything inside of me, and I just closed my eyes and I said, God, I know that you're good, and I know that your character is the same, that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever, that you are the same God. And so I choose you, and I choose to stay hungry. I choose to want you. I choose to desire you. You know, I turn my affections towards you. And even though you didn't answer the way I thought you would, you're still the God I fell in love with. You are still that God. And I think that my most incredible encounters, without getting too specific in worship, are the moments when you realize that this is not about getting something back. This is about an expression of love. This is about not withholding your love from a God who's been good, who's never let you down. And so no matter what's taking place, regardless of my heart feeling like it's broken some right now, I cannot hold back from him because he's always been good and he's always the same. So I think right now that's the biggest for me. I could hardly stand up that night, I think. Like just hardly stand up. And all I could say is, I trust you, I know you, I love you, and you're still the same, and I'm still with you. No matter what, I'm with you.
I can remember a time when I was probably about 16, and I was laying on the floor by the coffee table. We lived out in the woods at that time. And I remember we had these great big doors, these great big windows in the house, and we lived in the woods, and there was just mountains and trees. It was this incredible place. And I was laying there looking at the stars, and I literally heard this voice, started to tell me all these lies, and terror came on me. But I remember I had a choice. You can run upstairs and tell your dad and your mom what's going on, and then, they're going to help you through this, and you'll worship. And I knew the process. We did it every night. But I chose, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what my dad has taught me to do. And I'm going to stay down here as an act of faith. And I'm going to face this thing head on. I remember I just started worshiping on my own, 16 years old. And, Chris Valentin, one of our pastors, says this. He said when he was going through a difficult time in his life, he put a chair out in front of him, and he sat in a chair, and he said, "Devil, come over here right now. I want you to sit in this chair, and here's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to praise my God as loud and as long as I can, and you're going to sit there and you're going to watch me." And that's what I did that night. I just started praising God, on my own. I didn't want someone to help me out this time. I'm like, I'm going to learn this for myself. I'm going to encounter this God, my parents tell me about, basically. This is a step of faith. And I'll tell you what happened. The Lord literally, almost audibly spoke a verse to me in the Bible as I'm worshiping. And I think this is a key for people to realize, we need, like David said, we need to learn to strengthen ourselves in the Lord. There's nothing wrong with getting help from other people, but when we learn to strengthen ourselves in the Lord, it's a real key part of life. And I remember the Lord spoke to me this verse, man, and I'm telling you, it was almost audible, and I opened the Psalms up, and it was literally word for word what I was going through. The pangs of Sheol laid a hold of me, the death of the torment of the grave laid upon me. I was overcome, and then I cried out to you. I called upon your name, and you rescued me. You reached down in the pit and pulled me out. And it was incredible because at that moment when the Lord spoke that verse and I read it, that thing broke like that because I'd stepped out in that faith. God spoke his word, and that thing broke. And from that day on, it felt like the Lord handed me a key, to battle this thing. And then from that, we started street ministries, and we saw so many people get set free on the street from drugs, from addictions, from demonization. And, this thing about praise, the power of praise, it's so important. King Jehoshaphat, when he went out to battle that day, and he says, we're not going to go out with swords and spears, we're going to go out with our instruments. We're going to praise this God who says he's going to deliver us. And I tell you what, all God wants is He wants us to fall in love with him, to keep our passion alive, to obey him, to become friends with him. And literally, I believe he literally will take care of the rest for us.
Any time in my life that I've gone through something